Soil computers now have primary control of critical vehicle functions.
Oh my goodness, that's so time to do a thing. Hello, good evening, good afternoon, good time zone. How are you doing? It is 7:01, so I actually started almost on time tonight. For those who do not know, I am Ben Repaints. I am a small-time commission painter and hobbyist who just loves painting little plastic dudes and things and all that kind of fun. So, much has changed since I last streamed, and most of it's been for the good, at least on my end. One of the biggest things is that I finally got my Christmas gift, so I finally have the kill team, and while it's not ready to go yet, it is here, and I am excited, and I am happy about that. But the other thing is I actually have a couple of commissions that are lined up right now. And while I haven't started working on one of them, because I just got it today, I have been steadily working on another. And this one, I'm pretty excited. Hey, Sindarius, how's it going? How are you doing? I hope you've had a good week. I'm very tired today, actually. Well, I'm always very tired, if you haven't been able to tell. But I'm pretty darn tired. I got good sleep, and I have been. But I also just woke up exhausted, and I don't know why. But I do have some cool stuff to show off today. I have been working on a commission that I got last Friday. I think it's Friday. It sounds like Friday. And it was a good one. I've posted some pictures in the Discord, I think. But I'm very excited to show them off tonight because they're so darn silly. Wait, the to-do list is wrong. The to-do list is very wrong. I'm not done with those guys yet, but I will get back to them when I can. I have other things on the docket now. There we go. This makes me far happier than it should. But this is what is being worked on today. The to-do list is ducks. So let's go ahead and throw the camera on, and let's go ahead and get started, because this is just way too much fun. You can kind of see them already. I'm not done with them. I'm still kind of in the rough phase with them. But check this out. Look at these guys. Just look at these guys. This is going to be a Blood Bowl team for a client. This is going to be used for Blood Bowl. And that just makes me so incredibly happy. They're all chaosified and 40Kified. And that to me is just incredibly funny. I'm probably going to go back and do some touch-ups, but I need to finish doing the hazard striping on the horns and on the pauldrons. But this is what I've been working on. And there's more than just Iron Warrior style ones. This one is going to be Black Legion. Watching someone play Kingdom Come 2 and painting Space Marines right now. Very cool, very cool. This one's going to be Black Legion. So I'm going to have to give him some fun gold trim, make him look real good. This one you can probably tell is Thousand Suns. So I'm going to have some fun painting this one up with all the ridiculous gold trim and colors that are on him. Let's see the next one, because there's one for each Chaos God. We've got this amazing looking Emperor's Children duck. So this is going to be interesting. I think I'm going to have to make him an extremely bright and offensive pink. So this one's going to be a lot of fun. I got one more, or two more, I take that back. And I was kind of testing the red on this one, but this one is obviously a World Eater. And I'm pretty jazzed with some of the color and shading that I managed to get on the armor here. These guys are all half done, so there's still more work to be done on them. But I'm pretty happy with that. And we've got this Death Guard one right here. Hey, Shiny Mew Paints, how's it going? Good to see you. We've got this Death Guard looking duck right here. And he would be my favorite if it wasn't for the fact that there's one even better. So we've also got these two Commissars. This one is apparently, they wanted it to be a field medic, so I'm starting with, by painting it white. I went ahead and used some bone color, just to kind of give it some primer before I start hitting it with some of the lighter colors. But you can see he's got his little bolter. He's got the scar on his face. This is going to be fun to paint. These are already pretty fun to paint. This one, I think, is going to get kind of a Caiaphas Cain look. I'm not exactly sure, but he's got his little mug of recaf. And that definitely reads Caiaphas Cain to me, so we'll see how that goes. This one is my favorite, and I need to get it to a friend. This is an Adductus Mechanicus. And I just think it's super neat. So I'm going to go ahead and paint this guy up, get him ready. And kind of the same thing going on with the shading. Pretty happy with how the shading is turning out so far. So we'll see how it looks. He only wanted them battle ready, so I'm kind of going a little further than I need to, but I feel like it's worth it. We've also got this little flaming horror duck. I don't know what color I need to paint this one. I'm not sure if he wants pink horror or blue horror, so I'll figure that out. And finally, a duckling. Get it? Is a little duckling, and that's really neat. So these are going to be a lot of fun to paint. Additionally, I'm using his carrying tray for this, but a kill team finally arrived. So I'm going to have a whole lot of fun painting these guys up to an obscene level of detail and making them look really good for games of Kill Team. Because I feel like that's how I'm going to get my kicks when it comes to, like, detail painting. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get some of the metallics out of the way, and I'm going to go ahead and paint this this Adductus Mechanicus guy. And I think the first thing I need to do is get this part, which based on some of the pictures is kind of like a hammered copper. So I'm going to mix in some speed paint silver with some gold and see if I can kind of get a dulled down, muted looking brass or copper on there to give it some nice personality. But yeah, it hasn't been really a wild week for me. It's just been it went from being very quiet to being very active in terms of the painting. And I also played my second Escalation League game, and I mentioned it in chat, or in not chat, the other thing that we've got, the Discord. I got my ass beat pretty badly, and it was because of my severe misunderstanding of how terrain worked in 10th edition 40k. So I accidentally, since I went first, really hecked up and exposed all my big vehicles, which the opponent, while he was being very nice and he was doing his best to teach me, definitely took advantage of that situation, because I told him, no, I made the mistake, let me live with it and learn, and he basically got rid of all my big stuff immediately, which meant that the rest of the game was me just dying a slow death. But it was still really fun trying to figure out how best to mitigate that death as much as possible. So the end score ended up being something like 84 or 83 to 24. So yeah, I got pretty badly beaten, but it was one of those like learning experience type beatdowns where I didn't feel like he was bullying me, and he definitely made sure throughout the game to try and remind me of triggers and to give me advice if I asked for it or was receptive to it, which I was. So all in all, it was a really, really good experience, and I had a lot of fun, and I'm happy that even in getting blown out, I'm still having fun with the game, because that tells me that a lot of my previous consternation with it had more to do with how I was playing it rather than the core game itself. Because from what it looks like, me and my friends and I were definitely playing it wrong in a way that detracted from the overall ability for us to have fun with the game. So I strongly encourage you guys, if you're interested in playing 40K, to give it a shot, but to do so with someone who can help arbitrate the rules for you so you're playing it right and fairly. Which makes sense. I mean, the game is being developed by a whole host of people, so it would make sense that they would develop a game that feels somewhat balanced, you know what I mean? At least when played fairly and thoughtfully. So what I did here, and I'm finding that I really like this a lot, is I mixed in some of the speed paint silver with just some Vallejo, I think, hammered copper. And so that way I could get a nice color out of it, but also get some really good paint flow, which in turn allows the paint to go on much more smoothly than it would have otherwise. And I'm really digging this combination of things because it's really helping making painting, especially with metallic paints, go a whole lot better and be a whole lot more pleasant an experience. So if I were you, I would definitely look into investing in Army Painter Speed Paint Metallics, because the smoothness that they get is remarkable. Because, I mean, you're seeing I'm getting a very smooth coat on here with just a simple pass of the brush. And I didn't water this down at all. I just literally mixed it together. So I can only suggest you do this. Okay, that looks pretty good. I think I'm gonna go ahead and do his beak in the same color to add a little bit of contrast from the rest of the metal parts on his face. And because honestly, a metallic beak is very silly. And I think fits in well with the overall theme of this Adductus Mechanicus model. Now what I really need to do is find this file and print it up so that it's way too big, and just make a giant version of it so I can give it to my AdMech buddy, and he can have just a giant duck priest or Skitari duck, whatever you want to call it. Okay. Let me go ahead and do some of the power coils on his backpack to give that a little more variance. Just like so. And I think that'll do it. Looks pretty good. Don't want to put it in that water. There. Bring that out as best I can. And I think I might have gotten some, yeah, I got a little bit on his hood. So I'm going to want to go back and clean that up with some purple. But everywhere else, looking pretty good. Okay, let's clean that out of that little well so it doesn't just create a mess. And then we'll get back to more traditional paints. Because by and large, that's what I've used on these guys. Hey, Snowtwig, how's it going? Good to see you. How are you doing? It's been a little bit. It's been a week. That's how it constantly is. It's been a week since I last saw some of you guys. From what I remember, it's a little later, so you're probably a little bit eepy. And that is the case. Thank you once again for stopping by and saying hi. I am painting these amazingly cute little duck models. And I kind of love them. So I'm going to be trying to get some for myself, but for this client, this commission client, it's for their Blood Bowl team. So they're going to use these in place of like football players, which I think is absolutely peak and very funny. So I'm I'm trying to do my best on them without going too hard because they said they wanted it tabletop ready, nothing too extravagant. One of the favorite Froggo streamers. I'm honored to be up there in that pantheon. But yep, that's all I'm kind of doing today. Hopefully next week I'll have another commission because I was given one. He's got a friend who's also playing Blood Bowl, but he's got these very old school Skaven rats. And that just excites me because I love the Skaven, and I love how horrifically cartoony older Warhammer models were. And they're second edition Skaven, so they're very old, and they've got like giant heads and giant hands, and everything about them just looks so amazingly, you know, gamey. Because don't get me wrong, I love what Warhammer is doing, and I love what Games Workshop is doing, but they definitely have moved towards a more true scale look, and in some ways, that takes away from some of the fun of the models. Like, the models are fun, and they're definitely doing a great job, but the way that the old school Blood Bowl Skaven look just makes me happy. Okay, this degree of blending is probably going too far, but that's okay. I don't need to do many layers of it because I'm just trying to smooth out this this highlight area. Okay. And then the case right here, just a little bit higher. And what this will do is, because it's a thin layer of paint, as it'll dry down, a little less clear, a little more translucent than that clear cutoff that I've got, and that'll help blur the lines a little bit between them. What models are the ducks from? I honestly don't know. I don't remember. He told me he would give me some links for them, or just to kind of show me, and I can probably find them online. But yeah, I love these guys. They're very cute, and I'm quite excited that these were the models that he asked me to paint. Because originally, he wanted me to paint some halflings, which in itself is pretty okay, don't get me wrong. Halflings are cool, but these guys are just fun. You know what I mean? And so hopefully I will exceed expectations, and he'll really like these, and I'll be able to get more work from him. This one is Adductus Mechanicus. Get it? The other ones, though, are themed off of other Warhammer things. So, like, give me a second, real quick. This is a Chaos Duck, and it's based off of, he wants a paint scheme of Iron Warriors, so I'm working on that right now, hence the kind of sketched-in hazard stripes. He's got some commissars, so this one he wants to have more of a field medic look, so I've started blocking in some white with some off-white to make it a little easier to get there. This one's got a mug of recaf, which is Warhammer slang for coffee, but I think he's supposed to be more Caiaphas Cain. And then in the back, he's got one for each Chaos God. So he's got 1,000 Suns with a very Egyptian-themed look. He's got Emperor's Children, which is, you know, rock and roll. He's got a speaker on one pauldron. He's got a dial on the other, which I think is pretty darn cute. It's got World Eaters, which is, you know, Khorne. So this one looks very much like Kharn the Betrayer, which I think is a good shout. It's a good-looking model. And he's got Death Guard, which has the, you know, the mouth on the stomach. It's got the bone growths coming out of the shoulder pads. It's got the gas mask. It's got the symbol. So yeah, there's a lot going on with these, and I'm hoping I can get them done before the end of the week. I hope that in doing so, he's happy with how they turn out, because there is a decent amount to these models. Yeah, they do, don't they? They're all fantastic. There is a decent amount to these models, and be cool to see a battle with them. I would love that, actually. I know for a fact he wants to use them for Blood Bowl, so there is going to be a football-themed game with these ducks running around the battlefield, and that's very silly to me. But yeah, so I'm trying to get these done. This one's almost done, actually. I think I want to do the lenses on him, and I think that'll be it. And we'll see how that goes. But yeah, in some ways, it kind of reminds me of seeing people play Kill Team with the Todd McFarlane sized 40K figures, because they just kind of multiplied the measurements to make it all work for how much bigger those figures are. So we're going to start by painting these lens purple, and then I'm going to see if this purple will be dark enough to inform the shadows for the blue I'm about to use. And if not, I'll just paint back over them with a dark blue. Because especially with how big the eyes are, I really want them to stand out. Which, as you can see, they really do stand out. Give me a second. I'm going to just air dry this to get it to dry a little quicker. And I do not think this color is going to work, but we're going to mix in some of this blue and get, I guess, this kind of indigo color. And we're going to go ahead and paint off more of this. Go. There we go. And just get some of the blue on its own. And that will kind of inform... Actually, let's go ahead and hit that again. There we go. Go ahead and just kind of rim that a little bit with some of this blue. A little bit of a dot up there. This blue is too dry. It's not flowing very well off the brush. But that's okay, that's more of a me fault problem. Yeah, see, these colors are clashing just a little too much. And part of that is because I put it on too thick on this lens. So we're going to go ahead and use a little bit of the watered down blue to see if we can fix that situation. Generally, if you're trying to create smoother gradients, you want to thin down the paint more and kind of eliminate it, so that it doesn't have such stark endpoints on the whatever you're trying to paint it on, right? So I probably ought to just go ahead and start back over with this one, because there's just way too much of a mess happening here. Mix back in some of that blue. Let's see if I can do a little bit of that. Something else I did that was kind of fun is, even though we bought it a while ago, QB and I finally sat down and watched The Boy and the Heron, the last Miyazaki movie that came out. And I don't know if you guys saw that movie, but it's really good. And it did not go anything like I expected, which is honestly one of my favorite aspects of Miyazaki films, is they never go how I expect them to go. Because he's coming from such a different cultural bias, that everything he does is like interesting and novel, and his way of telling stories gets me every time. So I was pretty jazzed to see his take on that story, because I had no clue what they were going to do with it. I'm not sure if anyone here has seen The Boy and the Heron or know much about it, but it was definitely worth watching. I will say, in typical Miyazaki fashion, the conclusion was very sudden and things changed very quickly within the story, but that didn't change the fact that everything felt like it worked. It did give me a slightly irrational fear of budgies, which are very tiny little birds that are essentially harmless as far as I know, but within that movie, there's some context that makes them far more upsetting. Okay, so what I'm doing here is I'm trying to represent how light kind of goes through the lens. because that's what happens, is typically the brightest parts of the light are going to be shown, or the brightest parts of the light are going to pass through the lens and get the bottom. And you're going to get kind of this weird half-moon effect. And they're also probably going to hit up top. So my hope is that with this not very good brush, I can create a convincing enough swoop on the bottom of these lenses to depict the idea that light is passing through them. Now, a sane painter would have just gotten a better brush. But I'm having a lot of fun seeing how far I can push this bad one. There we go. That's what that's going to look like. You have trouble with glass reflections? I mean, they're not easy, as you just saw. Glass reflections are wild and weird. And since I got the blue out, I'm going to go ahead and hit this guy's too, because I think the World Eaters, at least Karn, I'm going to go ahead and make him have blue lenses so that they contrast well against like the rest of his outfit. So I'm going to do this one a little differently from the AdMech. I'm just going to go straight off of the black base coat and see how that takes me. But yeah, generally, as I understand it, with like gemstones, with lenses, with any kind of glass dome, the way you kind of want to portray it is have the middle part be a little darker and have where the light is passing through be where you kind of highlight it. That actually ended up looking pretty darn good. Okay, now we're going to mix in a little bit of white to the blue. Hopefully I've got this wet enough. I'm going to go ahead and hit this with the hair dryer to dry it out a bit. Perfect. Kind of the same thing. It's just going to line the bottom bit. And in this case, actually, it's going to line closer to the middle because it's going to represent an eye. So I'm going to do this one slightly differently. Okay, I think it actually turned out a whole lot better than I expected. Especially with big reflexive lenses. I don't even know if I'm on screen. Yeah, quack, very much so, right? Especially with the big reflexive lenses, you kind of want the light to show off in the middle. But honestly, this guy's eyes are so big, I can actually go ahead and draw little eyeballs in here. Which is wild to me. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and just use this to imply where his eyes are going to be. There you go. Now he looks incredibly mad. At some point I am going to set up some more fun redeems. I'm not sure what they're going to be yet, but once I get some time, I'm going to sit down and really think about it. Okay, that's way too wet. Okay. Let's see what I can do in here. Maybe make him look completely deranged. Tiny little dots for eyes. That one ended up being almost perfect. This one ended up being a little wild, so I'm going to go back a bit and see if I can blend it a little better. Okay, nope, that ended up being too dark or too light. And see, this is where I'm going to get in trouble, because I don't have exact mixtures lined up, so there's going to be some slight differences in these colors. Let's go ahead and give him slightly whiter. And that's just how insane I can make his eyes look, right? whack. Darn it. Come on. Give me a point to play with. There we go. Now he looks certifiably deranged. What about a redeem to change the paint color or model for 1 minute? If I wasn't working on commissions, then yes. I have seen that before, and I think it's wild. I know Isidore has one that causes him to paint left-handed. On personal projects, I might go ahead and do that. But especially when working with like a client's stuff, I'm gonna have to defer. You know what I mean? Okay, let's see if mayhaps doing a kind of wash, knock this all back down, and make it a little bit smoother of a blend. In the fancy-pantsy world, they call this glazing, but I'm not fancy-pantsy. I am a normie, so I'm going to try my best. And now he looks certifiably insane. And that's exactly what I was going for, so yay me. I'm trying to think, are there any other ones that would benefit from having blue lenses? I think the Death Guard is going to have to go red or green. I'm not sure which. Like, have brass following around him, and then have, like, green lenses right here that are kind of a sickly green, the same way the rest of his armor is. Thousand Suns. I think Thousand Suns. No, that's not Thousand Suns. Thousand Suns are already red, so the rest of those should be good. I'm trying to think, what else can I do with what I've got out right now? Not much, unfortunately. So what I actually am going to do is I'm going to go back and see if I can make that mixture again, because I think that color works really well as trim for, what about one where he puts on your Warhammer power suit? If I can get Darkvolt to do a talking animation for that one, I think that's a really good idea. And I'll see if I can find like a voice modulator or a voice filter that'll give me like that power armor echo. And I'll try and speak only about stuff that the Emperor would approve of. I don't know. That is a very good idea, though, and that is very silly. Okay, bright bronze. I think I actually want to go gold with this one. So I'm definitely going to have to keep that in mind whenever I do crazy redeems. Because the heavy intercessor outfit is good. And at some point, if I ever get to the point where I'm 3D modeling, like, and doing stuff for my VPO, then I'm definitely going to have to render that one and make that a redeem. And whenever that happens, have, like, some kind of bad guy show up that I have to try and gun down or something. I don't know. But that is remarkably silly, and I like that idea. Okay. So yeah, once again, I strongly recommend, if you're struggling with metallics, get the Army Painter Speed Paint Metallic set, because it goes on so smooth. Like, look at how clean that went on. That's beautiful. That's A+. No further comments, no further criticisms. Just keep doing what you're doing, because this is beautiful. I always struggle, and for a while I thought I hated Vallejo Metallics, and to some extent I'm still not super fond of them, despite them being pretty good, because they always go on super streaky, and I never feel like I have great control with them. But by mixing it in with the Army Painter Speed Paint Metallics, I feel like I've gained a whole new level of painting smooth metallic stuff on these. So I strongly recommend, if you're worried about your true metallic metal colors, switch over to Army Painter Speed Paint Metallics, because they just go on so easy. Like, look at that. That looks great. Okay. Go ahead and do that as well. This one, same kind of thing. And even though it goes on the smooth, it doesn't really run unless you really oversaturate the brush. So I'm able to just do a controlled streak in whatever direction I need to do. And that's been super nice. And I want to emphasize, I did not like Army Painter speed paints for a very long time, so they have converted me and made me into a fan and a supporter of their speed paint range by dint of their metallics alone, it feels like. Okay, let's see if I can hit that without making a mess. There we go. Sorry, I'm concentrating in really hard right now to make sure that I hit all of these panel lines about as well as I can. So hopefully I don't do something crazy like drop the model or have my fingers stumble or something. Because right now I'm pretty jazzed with how this is turning out. Okay, let's more of that gold in there. Mix that off. Because, yeah, I mixed this with Glorious Gold, which has a very, very bright gold like presentation to it. And so mixing it in with Army Painter Speed Paint Silver dulls it down quite a bit, but at the same time gets this wonderful flow. So another thing, and I've talked about it a couple times before, but I'm very strongly considering it now, is that I have a meme list for playing 40K called the Clown Car. And I don't know, I'll go ahead and refresh everyone's memory because it's been a while. But I found out that the Land Raider Crusader, which is not a particularly good tank, has a troop transport of, I think, 14 or 16 troops. And so my thought is that I can take Torgaradon and an Apothecary Biologus and 6 aggressors with Boltstorm gauntlets and put them in there and have them spill back out and just murder whatever is in front of them because of what kind of firepower they have. And for a while I was jokingly calling it the Clown Car because I was cramming a bunch of Space Marines into a small box and then trundling it upfield and then just deleting the biggest thing I could find. And since the aggressors have just so much firepower, I would just use their small arms firepower to delete any small units that happen to be in the area, and then use their Power Fists and Torgaradon's Power Fist with Siege Master to just go ahead and delete whatever big model they happen to be in front of. So that is my plan, and for a while I was like, this would be a really funny list, but I didn't want to pay that much into one big meme vehicle and not have it work and have nothing to do for the rest of the game. So I've been kind of deferring, but as I've gotten more used to how the game plays, and now that I'm playing a 1500 point league match sometime this week or next week, all I can think of is I kind of want to play the Clown Car. So I think I'm going to play the Clown Car, and I will let you guys know how it goes. And I can already spoil it for you. I'm going to take an L, but it's going to be a fun L. Because that is just a stupid amount of firepower and silliness in one shoebox. Okay. Let's see. This can just go like that because I'm not super worried about... There we go. And I don't know, for anyone watching, hopefully you're getting to see just how clean this stuff goes on when it's been mixed together like this. Okay. Okay, that might be a little overloaded on the brush, so I'm gonna have to be careful here. Go ahead and use some of the excess on places where the gold is going to go on the trim. And I'll clean that up a little bit later. Okay, but let's go ahead and very carefully line. I'm beginning to see, I mean, I knew this already, but I'm beginning to see why the client went ahead and let me do these models, because the amount of trim on Chaos can be very, very intimidating and frustrating if you don't like doing the trim. Thankfully, I'm a fan, so while I do want to make sure this is right and correct and good looking, I'm not stressing it too much. Okay, and there it is on his face. Okay, let's go ahead. And I'll go ahead and just paint the duck skull, put a duck skull on there. I'll just go ahead and paint that as well in this gold, because honestly, I don't see any reason to paint it as a skull when it clearly looks like it's part of the trim. So let's do this, beautiful. And on this one, let's do the same thing. Now, I will say I am very much missing my my paint handle, but I accidentally left that at a friend's house a few weeks ago, and I haven't had time to go back over, so I'm kind of having to use just my hands right here, which are working fine, mind you, but having the paint handle would just give me that extra level of flexibility when it comes to moving around and positioning myself with this paint, this model. Okay, well, the air guards are getting turned gold now. Which I guess makes sense, the rest of the trim is, so why not this too, right? Okay, go, there we go. There we go. And there we go, one side almost done. There we go. Go ahead and hit the other side real quick. Now, one thing I will say about getting to play 40K is seeing just how balanced the game is right now. Because so far, in no game did I feel like I lost because the team I chose was bad. You know what I mean? I don't feel like I had a game that I couldn't win just because they chose a better army than I did, and they were able to beat me because of that. I felt like I at least had a chance in each game, and the thing that did me in was my poor decision making and my inexperience, which I think is great, because honestly, that's how games should be won or lost by, not because you were able to choose the meta list or the right models and the other person wasn't. So it was kind of nice knowing that I had a fighting chance, and the only reasons why I didn't win were because they were a better player than me, since they had been, you know, playing longer and all that fun stuff, but also that I just simply made bad decisions. It never felt like the game was out of my control. Okay. Which honestly makes me want to play with friends more, because I've got some friends who are trying to play 40K, but because we didn't really know what we were doing, choosing quote-unquote suboptimal lists really felt like it, and it felt like the game was beyond our control and we were losing because we were just some units were just clearly better than others. And knowing that that's not the case is very affirming. Go ahead and hit here just because. There we go. And now, not Karn, whoever I want to call this. This duck is almost done. Oh my goodness, there's so much of the speed paint and metallic paint stuck on this brush. So, I've mentioned it before, but I really want to emphasize it here. try your best to not use metallic paints on like a good brush. Whenever you use metallic paints, use a brush that you don't care about. Use a brush that you're not going to use again with nicer paints. Because the metallics are going to get in the ferrule. They're going to ruin the brush. It's going to be a problem. What else can I do with this? I don't think I want to do the same color for the Death Guard stuff. I think that's going to be a more desiccated looking brass. So I'm going to mix it back in with that silver to dull it down. But it's going to be a darker color. That silver has become a very good dulling, smoothing medium. Now, honestly, I need to take a second and look up what Karn's World Eater symbol looks like, because I forgot. And if I want to do this model justice, I'm going to have to go ahead and try and get the shoulder pauldron. Oh, he's not wearing a shoulder pauldron. That explains it. Does he have it on the other side? Or is it... Nope, it's just that. Okay. Back out of that. Back to World Eaters. Okay, let's try the Lord on the Juggernaut. What does he have on his shoulder? Damn it, Goku. They all have the wrong symbol on their shoulder. This isn't fair. Like, that's a straight-up World Eater symbol, but none of them have that on their shoulder. Dak nabbit. Corn Berserkers. Let's try Corn Berserkers. Maybe one of them have it on their shoulder? There we go. Okay, so it does need the metallic. And on the inside is kind of a planet-looking dealy. So I'm going to go ahead. Is it fine washing the brush in just water? I would, but I would also wash it in a separate pot of water than the one you're using for your traditional paints. Because if you don't, you're going to get all these little particles in the water. And then when you try and wash your traditional brush in there, it's going to get inside the traditional brush that you're using and get everywhere. And you're going to get those fine grains in your good brush regardless. So I have a wash tub that I normally use for like my airbrush, but for what I'm doing right now, it works perfectly fine for doing the metallics as well, because I don't actually put my airbrush in there. I just kind of spray excess water into it, and that allows it to clean off. And so I can just kind of take any paint that I don't want to intermingle with my good brushes and just rinse them off in there. So I would have like a separate pickle jar or something that you use specifically for cleaning off metallic paints on a brush. Okay, I think that's good with the fangs. And now I can do a little blue colored world. Okay. Do I use a wet palette? Yes, I do. I'm using one right now. It is gross and disgusting because I haven't cleaned it out in a while. But this is what the wet palette looks like. You should change your palette paper a lot more often than I do, and you should wash it out a lot more often than I do. Don't be like Ben Repaints. His wet palette is a disaster. But it does keep your paint wet and moist instead of drying out, and it does do a really good job of keeping your paint smooth. Like I said, mine is horrifically poorly treated, so don't copy me when it comes to how you just saw what my wet palette looks like. Okay, so the next thing is going to be, I'm going to use Laraman Blue, which is kind of a teal blue, to do the little world, little globe on his shoulder. Because the World Eaters, the Planet Munchers, whatever you want to call them, they do have a very vivid colored planet on their emblem. At least those who still have the emblem on their shoulder, Karn. And so what I can do here is just kind of add this in and let it dry out, and then do it again to give it this really nice vibrant blue. But yeah, I strongly recommend, if you want to make painting a whole lot less miserable, getting a wet palette definitely helps, because it keeps your paints usable longer. And so I really appreciate it. I fought having one for way too long, and then I finally got one, and I was like, why did I waste all my time not having one? And I kind of did with that with a lot of stuff. My buddy Soft Servo kept pushing me, not pushing me, but he kept gently recommending I do certain things like base my minis and use a wash and just all these little things that make the model look better. And I kept being reticent to do it because it was more work. But now that I started to do it, I realized, no, he's 100% right. I should have been doing this a while ago. And I don't know why I didn't just hit the vent on his chest, but let's go ahead and hit the vent on his chest. Because this is going to be that same metal as everything else on this lad. Okay. The good news is that while you can buy a wet palette, like a fairly expensive one if you want, because the quality of the sponge is better and the parchment paper is better formulated specifically for this and blah 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 yada yada. That is all true, but you don't need to. You can make a wet palette using some Tupperware, some parchment paper, and a sponge, like a cleaning sponge that you can buy. So wet palettes don't have to be expensive, is what I'm getting at. And that's kind of cool. My first wet palette I made with about $5 worth of stuff. And it worked really well. I just became antsy and wanted to see what like a quote-unquote good wet palette felt like. This is a little bit quick quackers. It really is, right? But he looks good though, and that's all that matters. I've done a good job with this World Eater lad. Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and hit his vest or his straps a little bit to bring them back down to a black. And hopefully I can call this one done other than his base. And I actually got a question from the client on what should I do with the base. Should I go ahead and try and put some terrain and tufts and grass and turf there? Or should I do something a little different and try and make it look like they're actually in a pond? And honestly, given how little space there is on there, I think I'm leaning more towards the pond motif, just because it'll generally be easier to do and convey better without me having to get the rest of the model dirty. The user, the client who did this, he used Cobalt Keep bases, which I think are absolutely fantastic. If you've never seen Cobalt Keep bases, they actually have a built-in slot in the bottom. Blood for the blood pond. Bread for the bread throne. They have little built-in slots for you to put in magnets. And I think that would be brilliant, except that I don't want the magnets in there. But for people who do, it's like absolutely perfect. The magnets that they send out, they suggest you use, are just strong enough that you can put them on there. Like, I mean, look at this setup. Tell me that's not cool. And it does a really good job of keeping them secured down to whatever you need them to be secured down to, but at the same time, you can pop them off and it doesn't feel like you're about to rip the model off the base. So I strongly recommend, if you want to have good magnetized models and good magnetized bases, get Cobalt Keep, because they're pretty aces. Okay. Go ahead and hit some of this. Try to bring that back a little bit. Do it the same on here. And it is kind of cool to see this stuff, because I don't have the money to spend on these things. So getting to see how it works via some of my client stuff has encouraged me to buy some of it. So yeah, there we go. Guy's done. This very angry looking duck is ready to go. Oh wait, no. You know what I can do? Let me go ahead and do the pond. So I'm gonna mix a little bit of black in with that blue. Like I said, the blue is the dominant color. We're just gonna go ahead and go all around the duck. And then as we move further away from the duck, I'll start layering in some other colors. There's some lighter blues to create kind of a simulated shadow. That way, we can get a very fun and novel looking base for these little guys. And so all this is me mixing black and the blue that I'm using, which I honestly don't remember the name of. It's a Vallejo blue, but it does come in looking very good. I actually got it as an analog to ultramarine blue or Macragge blue, whatever you call it. But I feel like it conveys as a very strong blue no matter what. So that is definitely good. Okay. So now the duck base is nice and blue. It kind of conveys that idea of, or reads kind of as water. Go ahead, try this off a little bit. Perfect. And as I move a little further away, I can go back to a more regular blue. A little bit of water to thin that down a bit. And just as I pull away, hopefully this will read okay. I've never done this before, so I'm kind of learning as I'm doing, but I'm having a good time doing that. Hey, Lotus K, thank you. Good to see you. Yeah, so this is a commission that I'm doing for a client. They saw that I do commission work and wanted a Blood Bowl team themed around these ducks. So this one is a World Eater that is supposed to look like Karn. And I think it's a cute little model and I love it to death. It is probably my second or third favorite model of the group, though. I showed them off a little earlier in the stream, but I'll go ahead and start displaying them again. They're in varying degrees of completion. I figured I wanted to get this one done so I could say that, you know, one of them is complete. Right now, the client asked for me to give it a shot and try and do kind of like a pond-looking base as opposed to the turf one, just because there's not a whole lot of room on these bases. So, I'm giving this a shot and seeing how this is looking. Yeah, a Blood Bowl team of ducks. That was the plan. I thought it was fantastic. Apparently, this person has been into 40K for a very, very, very long time. So, they're at the point now where they're just kind of playing with the medium and playing with the franchise and doing all sorts of fun, weird stuff with it. You know what I mean? Okay, a little bit of water. Mix it back in. Mix these two together. A little bit more water. That way I can use that as a bit of a glaze. Give me a second. I use a hairdryer to dry paint when I want to move on to a new layer. And for the most part with acrylics, it works pretty okay. Since it's not trying to mess with a texture of any kind. So now I'm just going to add this this glaze of like this mid blue to kind of which is right now heavily saturated with water, but it's a mixture of the dark blue and the blue to kind of blend these borders together without having to actually blend the borders together. Because they did not ask for display quality, they just asked for tabletop ready. So I'm trying to do this a little quick, but at the same time I still want it to look good. But yeah, my favorite one so far has been the Adductus Mechanicus. So hey Isidore, how's it going? This is my favorite. I love the AdMech, and I think this one is so darn cute. So yeah, I want to get the STL for this and make a like 6 inch tall one and just have it in the house somewhere, because this guy is perfect. You could not tell me otherwise. This AdMech duck is perfect, and once I give him the white trim on his robe, he will be even more perfect. And also, if you guys are interested in magnetizing your minis, I mentioned this already. Take a look at your paint job and think, wow, this is foul. Yeah, I can't ducking believe it. You know? But, yeah, so Cobalt Keep makes these. I strongly suggest you get them if you like having that kind of basing. I completely forgot to do a metallic on that side, so I'll have to do it later. Probably hit a little bit better there, but yeah, I'll get back to this one in a minute. Right now, I'm working on this lad and having a whole lot of fun. So let's go ahead and get Karn finished up. Going to do another layer. This time it's going to be of an even brighter blue. And again, all I'm really doing with this is using a very watered down version, because all I kind of want to do is imply that these colors are in the model on the base. I'm probably going to have to find a way to streamline this a little bit, because this is taking a bit longer than I had hoped, but that's okay. Yeah, these are very cute. Like I said, my big thing is I want to get a huge version of the Adductus Mechanicus and just put him in the house somewhere. I'm also curious if they have ones for like Sisters of Battle and more mainline Space Marines, because if so, I'm going to need those as well. Okay, let's mix some of that blue in with there. And let's see how this is going to look. We're just going to go ahead and see if I can do some streaks to indicate ripples in the water where it's kind of moving away from the duck. Let's see if this will read. It actually doesn't look that bad. This is so silly. I love this. Okay, so there he is. I'm gonna go ahead and paint the rim, because you always want to make sure that the rim on your models is nice and clean. That is also a recommendation, guys. Whenever you have the chance, when you finish off a model, don't leave paint on the sides of the model, on the rim of the base. It looks dirty and it looks unfinished, generally. So before you can claim that your mini is completely done, I strongly recommend painting the rim. I don't care what color it ends up being, it doesn't really matter, just as long as you do so and give it a uniform paint job, so that way it looks truly done. Just gonna go over there for now. Okay, gonna go back to the Adductus Mechanicus real quick, because I need to do a quick speed paint of one of his cheeks. There it is. This reminds me of that game, Plastic Duck Simulator. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. I believe Doigswift played it very briefly, or someone else did that they were friends with, and they just kind of float around and bump into each other and do all sorts of silly little shenanigans. Is that right? Okay, so that's all I needed there. That's literally it. I just needed to hit that. Potentially that. And that's good. Oops, don't want to put that in there. I have to sneeze like you would not believe. Okay, the next thing I need to do is paint up the rim on his robe. And to do so, what I'm going to do is you never put white or yellow or orange directly on black, because what that'll tend to do is it'll have the black just kind of show right straight through. Why am I doing that? And that's not good. It means you have to put a million layers on it, and it looks terrible, and you just end up fighting yourself. So the way that you can kind of move from black to a lighter layer of something is to kind of have some kind of undercoat underneath. In this case, I'm going to mix white with black, and I'm going to create a gray. And the combination of the two tends to cover considerably better than just layers and layers and layers of one light color. And it also allows you to work up and have kind of a built-in shadow tone. Because if you start with white, then you have nowhere to go. You're already at your brightest. If you start with, say, a gray, then you now have your shadow, and you can do some highlights up to white, and it'll trick the eye into believing that it's white with shadows. So just word of the wise, don't ever start with white. Start with gray, start with a darker color, and work your way up to white. And that way, your highlights will read as white. And it'll provide some much needed color depth that you otherwise would not have. If you already know color theory, then congratulations, you already know that. If painting miniatures is kind of the first way that you're learning color theory, then That's some advice for you. That's some advice that my partner by QB gave me when I was learning. Mix that back in. And let's see, what am I hitting? I think I'm only hitting borders. Oh no, I've got this too. I apologize if this is obscured by the camera, but my need to see trumps, unfortunately, the video footage. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and hit all of these borders as well. And then potentially the Barnes and Noble. And I'm not sorry for that joke. Okay. Same kind of thing. One of the ways that you can kind of control your hand and get a really nice steady grip is to mash them together. Because it's a lot harder for your painter hand to shake violently if it's braced against something. And while you're doing this, I also recommend planting your elbows firmly on the table or desk that you're painting on. Because otherwise, that is free floating. And you're losing support and stability. So when you're trying to do precision shots, like what I'm doing right now, failing at unfortunately, is bracing. Because while it may never be perfect, it'll be a whole lot closer to good than if you don't do that. Okay. Fantastic. Actually, I don't remember exactly how the cog is split, so I'm going to do this the heretical way and guess. We're going to put black over this side of the duck face. Torque, that's some kind of tall orc. I don't know. Did I say something about torque? I was too busy focusing on what I was doing to know what I was talking about. Okay. Unfortunately, especially when I'm focusing on stuff like this, I tend to go into a little bit of a fugue state, and I honestly don't remember what I'm saying. Okay, mixing the white, black a little bit to get this nice gray. Okay, I'm going to go ahead, paint that. Paint that. Get a really good high contrast on that cog. And then I'm going to flip this lad upside down. Hope that I do an okay job here. And I do, because I'm awesome. So especially now that it's getting a little warmer outside again. I don't know if it is for you guys, and I know we've got an ice storm coming up soon regionally in the United States. It's warm enough for me to go outside and do some exercise. I have not exercised in a very long time in any meaningful way. So my body hurts. Let's go ahead and clean some of this up because I accidentally got some of that metallic on parts that I wanted to keep silver. Take some of that, put it there. There we go. There we go. Okay. Now that the hood has had time to dry, that color would work. I'm sad about the ice storm coming. Understandable, especially if you're tired of the cold or you're concerned about the potential damage it can do. I hope that you're in a safe space, that you're in a safe place where it's not going to affect you too badly. I always enjoy the cold, and I always feel bad for people who can't enjoy the cold for, you know, reasons based on health or economics or situation. So I'm sorry if it's affecting you in that manner. My partner, my wife, can't enjoy the cold because she has, you're done with the cold and the snow. We haven't had enough of it for me to be done with it, and I'm always a fan of it. So unfortunately, I'm still for it. Where I live, we got like a grand total across 3 different snows. We got like 1.5 inches. and we had one very cold week, and otherwise it's been perfectly temperate. So I haven't really had a chance to fully enjoy it, and that just makes me want it more. You know what I mean? But I do know in other parts of the country it's been absolutely bloody miserable, and I wish that I could take away all of that cold and all of that snow and give it to me, because I am a fan. And yeah, you don't need to tell me where you live or nothing, but I just hope that you're safe and that the ice storm isn't that bad, at least for you, and everyone of your friends and family end up being okay. Okay. And you can see this is already considerably brighter, and this is still a shade of gray. So the whole point here is to just kind of slowly work your way up to an actual white, so that by the time you hit white, you probably got about 5 inches last storm. Yeah, so you must be either further up north than me or further down south, because I know that both sides got hit really hard, and because I live in a dang bowl, we got next to nothing. So once again, yeah, I hope that it basically ignores you entirely and goes very far away from where you are, and instead pivots over this way and gives us plenty of snow. Though at the same time, I also don't wish that, because my wife is trying to go to a training to get out of a current job, and she needs to be able to... Yeah, so, no, never mind. I hope the weather does what other people wants it to do. There we go. I said the thing that hopefully won't make anyone mad. Okay. Kind of the same thing here. I'm just doing some highlights where it looks like the light would hit this the hardest. And there we go. We've got a white. We got a white cowl. That by and large looks pretty darn good for how little time I just spent on it. And I think the Deinonychus is... No, he's not done yet. I was about to prematurely claim victory when I hadn't really hit his cog to try and get that to be a little bit more vibrant. But hopefully even in the camera you can see that parts that aren't pure white are still showing up as a very powerful white, and that should double down and reinforce that you don't need to be pure white everywhere, and that doing so would actually wash out your mini. Yep, there's the lad. Time to give him some water. All the ducks are swimming in the water. Hide-a-dide-a-dide. Hide-a-dide-a-dide. All the ducks are swimming in the water. Okay. So again, all I'm doing, mixing some blue and some black to create kind of a dark base to work off of. And then, as I get further away from the duck, I'll eliminate some of the shadows created by this blue-black by making some lighter blues. And that will eventually inform what looks or resembles, or at the very least calls back to water? And hope when I send some pictures, hopefully the client will like it, and he'll just have me continue to work on it this way. Because this is a relatively easy base that doesn't require me to glue anything down. Or to work with UV resin, which I'm not familiar enough with to want to play with, especially since he already glued the darn thing on here. Okay, so that's good. Gonna hit that with a hairdryer to accelerate the drying process. Yeah, I don't think I've seen more than 3 inches of snow in almost a decade since I moved down to where I live. But like I said, UV resin is fun. It seems to be. I've used it obviously for 3D printing, but beyond that, I've been too kind of anxious to try and put it on some of these models. I did use it to close up some gaps on some 3D printed models that I felt like, even though they were supposed to fit in together and slot in together, it was just too big a gap. So I grabbed some of the UV resin with a toothpick and hit it with the UV flashlight it came with. I used Ninjon's product that he recommended, and it worked really well, and I was quite pleased with it. But that's as far as I've gone with the UV resin experiment. What kind of fun stuff have you done with UV resin, Lotus K? What kind of cool things have you experimented with that have led you to conclude that UV resin is fun? Because last I saw, and this might be a little outdated, but last I saw you were working on Sisters of Battle, and I'm not sure how much UV resin would have necessarily been needed there, but I'm always curious to see how other people do up their models, especially because, unfortunately for me, this hobby has been kind of, I don't want to say lonely, but very isolated, as I'm the only one that's very seriously painting away at stuff, so none of my friends have cool stories to tell me. And so I live vicariously listening to the cool shit you guys do. Oh, you made a swampy base for your fetid bloat drone. That's right, you were getting into Death Guard. How far have you gotten in with your Death Guard? I know you had the fetid bloat drone, but beyond that, what other cool shit have you gotten with them? Because Death Guard was my second army, and I think they're super freaking cool, and I wish to have done more with it. Okay, let's go ahead and mix this in. Right now, I'm up at like 1,000 points. You think it's on your Blue Sky? Yeah, I remember seeing that now. Now that you mentioned it, as soon as you said fetid bloat drone, my brain snapped too and went, yes, that was a thing that she did. It's not for me, it's for the hubby. Oh, okay. I'm glad that you're able to get into the hobby and enjoy it with your partner. That's pretty cool. Mine is not super into it. She really enjoys the model painting aspect, but the actual collecting of the Warhammers and painting and the playing of the game, zero interest. So in that way, this has been kind of solitary for me. But to her defense and to her credit, she has been very, very, very supportive, and has enjoyed like talking about it and listening to stories about it and all that other fun stuff. So it hasn't been like that thing you do is weird and I'm not going to engage with it at all. It's very much been I may not want to play the game, but I still want to share in this experience with you. And I think that's about as healthy and wholesome as it can get with this stuff. You have a couple of busts you need to work on. I keep hearing that busts are a lot of fun to work on, and I should give it a shot. And at some point I will, because in much the same way, I've got stuff that, I've got some that I want to practice with. But my queue has suddenly exploded in size. In no small part, thanks to my partner, but also because of some client stuff that I've become more engaged in. So doing projects like that are unfortunately not possible right now. Okay, this lad is done. You just ordered a couple more models? Very cool. Warhammer related or otherwise? Okay, I think the next thing I need to do actually is kind of... Actually, no, I have some purple. I can go ahead and paint the Emperor's Children duck, at least in the shadows, and work my way up to a horrific pink. Otherwise, okay, very cool. Yeah, I wasn't sure exactly how much of your hobbying was Warhammer related, and how much of it was not Warhammer related. Because I know some people are super into it and they make it kind of their identity, like myself, and there are others who are like, yeah, the minis are cool, but I paint other things too. 3 of the Nerixon models. I'm not sure what that is, but it's probably pretty cool, and I hope that when they arrive, and you pop into chat, you can share them with us. because while I haven't had as much time to do it recently, I do enjoy seeing what other people are painting and what other people are working on, because the mini painting world is so much bigger than Warhammer, and other games deserve to get their exposure as well. Like, I seriously, very seriously, wanted to get into Malifaux for a while. I just realized that right there is actually armor. That's not part of the wing. But unfortunately, between the cost of getting into it and just the lack of enthusiasm from any of my friends wanting to get into it, it just kind of fell off. Warhammer started it, but you like to try and paint other things. Hide the baby ducks, the Emperor Children is on the screen going quack. Yeah, that is true. You can put up the links to the models. That would be cool. That way other people in the chat can see them. Yeah, no, I think I've talked about it before, but my first miniatures that I painted were all Dungeons and Dragons models. And it was at a time where I didn't realize how deep this rabbit hole could go when it came to model painting. And so I was at that point just trying to frantically collect everything and anything, regardless of quality, because I was like, it doesn't really matter. None of that matters. I just want things to paint. I'll paint in the faces. I'll paint in the details. And then I got into Warhammer, and it's like, oh, there's a whole ass world out there with this stuff. And so I've been slowly kind of learning that. Now I think everything underneath is going to be Emperor's Children pink as well. So we're starting with this royal purple, and that's going to be the shadow tone around the speaker. And I don't know what color the flames are going to be. I'll have to figure that out. But right now, this is just a matter of trying to get all of the purple painted so that I have a nice shadow base to go off of. And actually, honestly, I can just go ahead and hit everything with this purple on here, because even if I do manage to hit the even if I do hit something like the flames, I'll just paint back over it. Because that's what painters do. They make a mess and then they paint back over it. You don't remember DuckTales being like this? I know, right? DuckTales got wild after I stopped watching it. It's like, I started playing Yakuza 0 again because I've been watching Onsta, who is a tremendous VTuber personality. Very energetic, very full of vim and vigor, and just a little bit of a goblin. They're very into Yakuza, and it's kind of reminded me that I wanted to play the game and just never really got a chance to, because my PlayStation 4 was the one with the bad hard drive, and I never tried to get it warranty checked until I found out that the warranty had expired. So I kind of gave up. But now I'm playing Yakuza 0, and I'm forgetting just how bizarre the little side quests are for Kiryu to go through. I had one last night. Okay, Snowtwig, have a good sleep, okay? Plenty of rest. I had one that I was playing last night where I just happened to come across a dominatrix who was really bad at her job, and it was because she personally was very quiet and demure, and that meant she was bullied and abused and you know, stepped on when she was younger, and she wanted to prevent that and grow out of it and transform, so she became a dominatrix and was bad at that. So Kiryu had to roleplay with her to help her be better as a dominatrix. And of course, because it's Yakuza, it never became exploitative or demeaning to anyone except for Kiryu. So just having screen grabs from that moment was just like, wow, Yakuza is wild. I understand why Onsta loves it so much and why so many other people are so fond of that series. Dami Mommy. Yeah, kind of. Yeah, and she wasn't very good at it until, for some reason, she requested Kiryu meet her at a playground park and give her guiders and pointers, and then that helped her get out of her shell and become better, and it was very silly. The end. I don't know what color that's going to be. I think it's going to have to be black because, or like a dark silver, because the Emperor's Children do weird things. And I think the Mohawk is going to be blue. And I'm actually going to go with a fairly dark blue. That is then going to be painted over with like bright pink highlights. The devs may have been doing lines. I do feel like that sometimes with that game, but I do appreciate that in general they kind of never push the envelope too far and get to the point where that stuff is mean-spirited. Because I think that's what makes the Yakuza series great, is while it does deal with a lot of themes based around machismo and what it means to be a man and you know, violence and gangs and whatnot. The creator of the game very much did not want to glorify cruel violence in the same way that Grand Theft Auto does. And, you know, wherever your opinion stands on that, that's the standard he took. And so Kiryu never attacks innocents. He never attacks people who, you know, have nothing to do with him, because he has that kind of old school mentality of the Yakuza as people who are supposed to be protecting the innocents for the most part. And that creates a lot of the central conflicts in the game, because very clearly the Yakuza isn't that, but he's romanticized it. So he himself is a pretty genuinely good person. And he's in a world where people aren't genuinely good people. And I respect that, and I think that's a cool story mechanic or concept to have to go with. Okay, I put way too much of this liquidy blue in the Mohawk. So I'm going to go ahead and hit it with a hair dryer. Dry that out before I turn them back over so it doesn't run all over this one. But yeah, the next step with this is to go in with a much finer brush and do some highlights on the hair, going almost up to like a sky blue, because that's what's going to make that Mohawk look absolutely wild. Right now, what I need to do is I hecked up the trim by getting sloppy, so I've got to clean that back up. And that's something else. When you really start getting into the nitty-gritty of detail painting with the mini stuff, is you're going to spend a lot of time bouncing back and forth and fixing mistakes, which honestly does take a whole lot less time than trying to be super duper careful. Now, obviously, it's a balancing act. You don't want to have to just keep swinging back and forth for all eternity, but by kind of letting yourself make mistakes, you do make it a lot easier on yourself to like finish a stage and keep moving forward and only have to go back and touch up a little bit. You know what I mean? Okay. Let's go ahead and do that for that side. Do that for that side. Do that for that side. But yeah, there's another Yakuza game coming out soon, and it stars the secondary protagonist of that series, Goro Majima, except he has severe amnesia and is on some island in the middle of the Pacific near Hawaii, and he eventually gets sucked in to a pirate gang. So it's basically Yakuza Pirate Edition. And the thing that gets me most about that is somehow, for some reason, Samoa Joe, the pro wrestler, is in the game as a character. And I love that, because pro wrestling is the right kind of silly for Yakuza. And I know that they had done like a New Japan Pro Wrestling collaboration with the previous game, so it just feels right to have Samoa Joe suddenly show up in there. That and not letting your paint dry too thick. Yeah, that's definitely another thing. Thin your paints has become a mantra because it is an important part of painting, especially with the mini painting, because these layers and these models are so small that if you don't take care of that, you're just going to completely clog all of the details. It's like that Dreadnought meme with thickest pigmentus, right? So you do want to be very, very careful with making sure that your paints are adequately thinned so you don't accidentally make that mistake. Okay. For now, he is about as done as I want to get him. What I actually want to do is get back to doing the Iron Warriors hazard stripes, because that's going to be a fairly tedious task, and I'd like to get that done as soon as possible so that I don't have to continue trying to harp on it later. And I might have mentioned it before, but since you're trying to do white on or yellow on black, you don't want to put straight yellow on straight black, because it's just going to show through and you're going to need like 8 million layers. So what you want to do instead is start with like a warm white and use that as kind of an intermediary layer, and then sketch the lines that way, and then go ahead and go on with the yellow, because it will definitely show better on a black background. So my plan is I'm going to go ahead and sketch out the hazard stripes with the white, or with the off-white, and then hit it with the yellow, and it's going to be a little sloppy and ugly, but then I'm going to go back over with the black paint, and that will straighten out the lines. So that is my plan. That is what I'm going to do with these lads. I was told specifically to leave the right pauldron clean and touched, because that is where the client is going to put their jersey numbers, their uniform numbers. And I'm going to send him a picture after tonight to be like, hey, this is the progress. Is this what you were looking for? And he will be able to tell me whether or not he needs me to do anything with these pauldrons. Okay. Ducks. They're all swimming in the water. Okay. There. And you might have noticed this. I'm not sure if you've paid too much attention to it or not, but I am not using my best brush here. I'm actually using a Citadel base brush, and that's on purpose, because I don't really want to use my nicest brush for some of these details. This has all been like rough painting, so the brush itself does not need to be that good. It's just for getting in rough outlines and sketches out onto the model really quickly, which will then be cleaned up with a much finer brush. At least that is the plan. And as you can see, like I said before, I'm not trying to be too specific or precious with these lines, because again, the idea is once I kind of fill them in with the yellow, I could just go in between these stripes and paint black lines across them with a much finer detail brush, and that will go ahead and clean up the angle of these lines. At least that is the plan. We'll see how that works out when I actually get to it. Okay. Thankfully, I got the camera angled really well tonight. And so, hopefully, you guys are getting decent visual on exactly what I'm doing. Okay, the next thing is going to be doing the hazard stripe across the pauldron, which once again will be fixed by using the black paint to touch this all up. There we go. And then across here. Now this is honestly one of the worst parts of this job, is doing these hazard stripes, but it's only because I can't paint a straight line to save my life. So trying to do this is a very high skill check for me that I am failing. Okay. Okay, I think that'll have to do for this lad. Okay, duck over in the corner. 4 more of these to do. There we go. There we go. This thicker so it matches up. Some more paint off the palette. Again, all we're doing is creating as straight a line as we can because it'll all be cleaned up later, so don't stress out too much about it. There we go. There we go. Okay. Now, the worst part about doing something like this, especially if you're new to it, is it's going to feel awkward and clumsy, and you're probably not going to do a great job for a grand majority of them. And then when you get to like your last 1 or 2, that's when you're going to have a system down. And you're going to look back at all your stumbles and your attempts and be like, man, I don't want to have to go back and do this, but I also don't want them to look like that. And, yeah, you're either going to have to go back and redo it or just deal with how it looks. But again, that is kind of the beauty of this method, because I'm kind of building in some fixing as I go back later. Let's knock some of the paint off of there. Get some more on the brush. Last thing I want is for this stuff to dry out. There we go. Okay, let's see if I can... And you can kind of see it here. This paint is way too wet. I have thinned it down too much and made it too watery, so it's beading really bad as it goes across the shoulder pad. And that's never what you want. So that is a reminder for everyone out there. Generally, the best thing to do is wipe some of it on your thumb and see how much moisture you actually have, because that'll mostly knock all the bad stuff off and make it so it's a little more bearable to use. Comme ça. Okay. Actually, I think with the thickness, I've left just enough room for 1 more on this one, so that's what he's going to get. If I don't like it, I'll just paint over it. Okay, this one's good. So when it comes to models like this, all this reminds me is that people who make a full-on Iron Warriors army and they freehand the hazard stripes, they're lunatics. You cannot trust them. There's clearly something wrong with them. Same with people who freehand the Lamenter's checkerboards on there. If you know anyone who's like that, stay away from them because they are dangerous. And for anyone interested, this is just a very simple Pro-Acryl bone color. This is Pro-Acryl Ivory, which reads very nicely as a warm white, which is why I chose it. When I put a yellow over top of it, it's going to do a good job of masking most of the black underneath and give the yellow a good warm base to kind of work off of, which is the whole point. There we go. They are lunatics and heretics. Who would have thought? Exactly, right? Especially with the whole thing about Iron Warriors and suffering. They want you to pity them and acknowledge them for how great they are, but they're the ones putting themselves in that situation. You don't need to paint Hazard Stripes. You chose to paint Hazard Stripes, you Looney Tune. Okay. Let's see. That can go there. That can go there. This can go here. Okay. Hazard Stripe. Yeah, for a little while, I definitely thought about making an Iron Warriors army. That desire is completely gone. I have negative desire to paint an Iron Warriors army. The opposite of desire. Though I do give a lot of credit to those who do, because it does legitimately look really cool when you got the Hazard Stripes stuff on them. Iron Warriors are just Jerry. I'm not sure I get the reference, and part of that is probably the fatigue, because there is a lot of Jerrys that I can think of. I don't know if my brain is referencing the right one. Okay. Okay. There we go. One more. I put way too much of this this off-white down on my palette. Jerry from Rick and Morty. Oh, yeah. That show, I'm honestly surprised it's still going, but at the same time, I'm not. I haven't watched it since, golly, I don't even remember what season. I think it ended with Beth potentially leaving and a clone of Beth taking over. And I think that was later revealed to be what happened, but that was the last time I watched the show, and that feels like years ago. So I have no idea what's going on with Rick and Morty now. I do know the showrunner got in a lot of trouble for being a little bit of a weirdo in the not good way. But beyond that, I have no position to speak on it. I do also know that they got new voice actors because of that situation. You went through and binge watched all of it in the past month or two. I did a little bit of that with Solar Opposites, which I guess was also a perfectly fine weird show, but it's not been something I have dedicated a whole lot of time and effort to. I do find it kind of funny, though, that when a creator creates something new and interesting and people are like, oh my goodness, this is so great, keep doing it. And they very clearly want to move on to something else. Because I feel like that's what happened with Solar Opposites. That's kind of what happened with The Simpsons. You know, it is great when they make something and they catch lightning in a bottle. But I also feel bad that a lot of creators and creatives end up getting stuck being only that thing. And I think that shows should be written with an ending in mind. And it makes me sad when they're not. Because after a while, I kind of don't want to see those characters anymore. And my buddy Soft Servo kind of put it best. I like it when things end. It doesn't need to go on for forever. Like, I just saw a couple weeks ago that The Simpsons are finally being removed from their primetime slot. And it's like, that show is way too old. And I appreciate that they're doing new things and trying new things, but that show should have ended decades ago. Okay, those guys are done. Ugh. Part of me wants to start again, but season 1, 2 is too painful for me. That's fair. Okay, I don't need all of this pain. I put way too much of that paint on there, thinking I was going to need a lot more of it, and I was wrong. Okay. I want to work on the Death Guard, so I'm going to work on the Death Guard guy. Actually, no, I've got the... No, I guess I better finish painting them hazard stripes. You know what? I already started it. Let's go ahead and get back to it. What I'm going to use for this is actually Averland Sunset, just because it is a pretty good yellow that reads well. So I'm going to go ahead and go through those, I suppose. Death Guard! Yes, there they are. I'll get to them eventually. I have a really good paint scheme for Death Guard. And, I can't wait to get to it to show it off, because there are a lot of big flat panels on that Death Guard that are going to look so good. But right now, I think I kind of want to get through the torture of these hazard stripes first. So I'm going to try and get through as many of these as I can until my patience finally gives away, and then I'll go ahead and move on to something else to keep my brain from exploding. But yeah, you can probably see it because I laid down that off-white. The yellow is very vibrant, and that's exactly what I was hoping for. And you can see where it didn't get laid down, it's kind of undersaturated, and it's very hard to see, or it's very easy to see the black background underneath. And so that's why you put down an intermediate color to block in. You don't have to, but it's going to make painting a whole lot easier if there's a color underneath it for you to kind of work on, as opposed to just trying to do yellow on black. Yeah, what better place to show it off than right there? You can see where it went over. It's taking me multiple layers to kind of push onto that part. Actually, Lotus K, have you seen my Death Guard? I don't recall. I know that I like to take the models out and show them off and be like, oh, look at the cool thing I did. But I don't know if you've actually been here when I've shown off some of my Death Guard stuff. Because I am intensely proud of how it turned out. Oh, okay, cool. So I guess I'll have to do that at some point. I found through Phelan Miniatures this incredibly high contrast Death Guard green color scheme that I kind of fell in love with, and I now use on all of my Death Guard. And I loved it so much, I went back and repainted my Mortarion in that style. And he looks really good. So, if you want Death Guard to pop, and you want them to look absolutely vibrant, while still having that aura of death, I can definitely show you. I'm lucky when I cut your stream. That's fair. Would you like to see the Mortarion really quick? Because I can definitely stop what I'm doing for a second, show that off, just because it's a neat model, and I think I did a good job with it. Okay, one moment. Sorry guys, I'm interrupting this to go find Mortarion. I will be right back. Okay. Morty! Morty! Oh, it works. Oh, my back. I made a mistake. I shouldn't have exited before coming out to do this. Oh, I forgot. I've got all my Death Guard squirreled away in the boxes. Okay, let's see what we got here. This can go here. 40 and a great unclean one down here. I've gotten to play Morty once, but I've never gotten a chance to play the great unclean one. So, give me a second. Let me pull this guy out. Yeah. Mortarion, how dare you? Okay, so first of all, we're gonna hop off the main camera real quick, and I'm gonna go on Camo Studio to make sure that he's gonna show up well. Okay, Gonna put him as far back as I can. Hopefully he'll focus in. I've got too many things on here, I think. So give me a second. Let me push the duckies out of the way so I can show off my Morty. Okay, let's see. Will this take? Will this take? There we go. Okay, you ready for Morty? Ready for Morty. 3, 2, 1. Morty. This is my Mortarion. This is the lad that I did. This is how vibrant him green is. I probably ought to redo his face a little bit. I also love these wings. I saw El Miniaturista do a thing about how the Death Guard doesn't need to be all dull and sad. And he actually went a different route. He went vibrant and full of life. And I liked it so much, I kind of emulated it. So between the between Phalan Miniatures' wonderful high contrast scheme and the Mothwings, I think he turned out pretty darn good. So now I just need to get him into a battle and have him absolutely rip ass on someone who deserves it. So hopefully that'll happen at some point. But yeah, I really like this model. This was my first big model, and honestly, one of my favorite models in the entirety of 40k. He's just beautiful. So hopefully I'll get a chance to play him. Bruh took all my emeralds from my chest. What a bastard! Once he does a Rodigus, he'll be Rotmore. Made himself emerald armor. It does feel like that, doesn't it? I think it turned out really good. And actually, oh dear. Okay, there we go. Speaking of Rodigus, there's my Rodigus. This one is 3D printed entirely. The whole lad is 3D printed. And yeah, there's dead things on there, I think. And I think my favorite part about this model is that I was able to get the base to look like it was clearing a path, as he's just got horrible things happening underneath him. So yeah, I have yet to play this guy, and I'm very excited to do so. So at some point I will. And I didn't even realize that I accidentally kind of made a color scheme that they both fit into. So they kind of play off each other, which is real nice. Yeah, I do. I've got Rotten Morty, I guess. The only thing I need to get now are some Nurglings so that I can actually play Rodigus, because I don't have Nurglings. I actually have models, though, STLs, that I could, I suppose, print out and make into Nurgling bases. But yeah, this specific style, this type of painting, is all over my army. And I really like how it looks, and I like how it unifies. So when I eventually paint up my kill team guys, I'm going to continue doing this, and I'm going to do it to the highest level I can with the nicest materials I have, so that I can keep up with the incredible vibrance that this brings off. And then I can take them to a tournament and get tabled and feel bad. Not really, but you know what I mean. I'm still not very good at the game itself, so I'll just have a really cool army that looks great as it gets blown off the table. Put this back. Ugh. I didn't even think that they are technically Rot and Morty. That's very funny. You're going to paint the Space Marine Imperial Fist still? No, I don't think I'm going to. I was actually talking with Darkvolt about it. He gave me a bunch of chapters that were part of the Badab War, and gave me a list of those. So what's most likely going to happen is I'm going to paint them in those schemes, because it's just neat. And it'll make them very unique and give them interesting color combinations, and it'll give a little more variety. So we'll see how that turns out. I do know that one of them is going to end up being a Retributor, just because Syama Peterson is amazing, and the Space Marine, or the Astartes 2 trailer, jolted me awake and made me scream like a little girl over how cool it was. So getting to see that just reminded me how cool I thought Space Marines are. So since I have this cool kill team, it's going to be a mixture of those things. So I think the Red Scorpions is one, the Space Sharks is another. I forget the rest of them, but I got them listed. The Raptors was one, and they're all going to be ones that thematically match their the model. So I'm excited to have a whole bunch of variety amongst the Space Marines. Okay. So yeah, we'll see. You want to see the Predator section so bad? Yeah. I don't think I think he mentioned, like in the article, they mentioned that we're not actually going to see more of that expanded on. Those are all supposed to be vignettes to show like what these guys' lives were like before they joined the Death Watch, and that it's supposed to be a piece about them in the Death Watch, which is why at the end you had that one Terminator with the inquisitorial symbol on his helmet. So I think the only sight of that Predator we're going to get is the sight that we got in that teaser, which honestly to me is perfectly fine. Not because I don't like the Predator. I did like the Predator, and I wish to see more of every one of those. I wish that Season 1 of Astartes 2 was a series of 15-20 minute short films showing these guys before they're recruited, but I don't think that's going to happen. But you know, given that it's taken him this long to work on it, I'm pretty much going to be like, okay, dude, whatever you put out, I'm going to give you an A+ on, because you're not going to ruin it. You're too good. That one's done. Okay. I will say, one thing I do love about Averland Sunset is that it is probably the most pigment dense of the yellows, and so it does get incredibly good coverage, given that it is for a yellow paint. And I get it, it's because it's almost like a golden yellow, so it definitely has a little more leeway, but it does look very, very, very good. It does cover very well. I remember my buddy, I got him a set of Army Painter war paints. Not the Fanatic line, the original one, because the Fanatic line didn't exist yet. And he was trying to paint one of his Corn Demon mounts yellow. And he just kept wondering, what am I doing wrong? Why is it going on like shit? And I had to tell him, it's not you, it's the paint. The paint is awful. It is pigment dense, heck yeah. I'm reaching the point of being done. That is fair. Okay. Okay. Yeah, this is the only color that I haven't been able to find like a suitable substitute for. In terms of like switching to another paint brand, I couldn't find a good Vallejo one. I don't know if a good Army Painter one exists, but I'm moving to Pro Acryl, and I haven't looked all that hard, but I don't know if they have a good substitute for Averland Sunset, and if they don't, this is going to be like the only Games Workshop paint that I still buy, because Averland Sunset is just such a good color, and it just goes on so vibrant. And as an Imperial Fist player, that just makes me incredibly happy. Okay, that looks about as good as it's going to look for now. I might actually make my goal and finish doing at least the yellow striping on these guys before the evening is over. And if that happens, I'm going to cry tears of joy. Okay, let's get back to that one. I wonder how this is going to look if I just do this. It almost looks green because of the black undertone. But you can see that's going to need a lot more layers than the other three that I did that background on. I cleared it for it. So I'm going to have to go back and see if I could paint over that to get a better coverage. Eventually the monotony of this will be over, and I will actually move on to doing the Death Guard. I think that's how I'm going to reward myself tonight, is I'm going to move on to the Death Guard after I finish doing these stripes. Good news is that also dried really quickly, so hopefully this next layer will do a better job of getting that coverage. You can still see the difference, but it'll be fine. I should take you guys and move you over here. As an Imperial Fist player, I feel like the Iron Warriors are getting the last laugh right now. They're all like, you may have the cooler Primarch, but paint my hazard stripes. And I'm like, okay. Speaking of, y'all know that Leman Russ is going to be the Primarch that comes back at the end of 10th edition, right? The way they're setting everything up, I would be stunned if Leman Russ is not the Primarch that comes back. I mean, they're clearly trying to go for Codex non-compliant chapters. Oh wow, I forgot that I did his stripes wrong. They're going for Codex non-compliant chapters. They're doing a range refresh of the Space Wolves near the end of the edition. There's no way that Leman Russ isn't the next Primarch on the Imperium side, because we got Fulgrim coming back on the on Chaos' side, which makes sense. But you know, we've got to have Leman Russ coming back. And I'm not much of a Space Wolf fan, but it's going to be cool seeing him back. Okay, let's go ahead and dry that off real quick. I just wonder how they're going to manage to do Leman Russ, because he was already quite a character during the Heresy. And I'm wondering what they're going to do to make him more interesting in 40k. Can't wait for that Fulgrim model. I'm beside myself right now because thought that I was going to have enough money saved up to buy Into the Emperor's Children line when it came out. But unfortunately, a combination of finances and other things have made it so I am not going to have any money when the Emperor's Children line comes out. So I've been waiting for them for about 3 or 4 years now, and I'm pretty sad that I'm going to miss out on all of the boxes and whatnot that'll make everything a little cheaper. Dorn will come back eventually. He'll come back eventually. I'm from what their business strategy seems to be right now, they're going through all of the like unique chapters and unique legions before they start hitting on the Codex compliant ones. The Codex compliant ones got Guilliman. At least that's how it reads to me. Guilliman is the Primarch for the Codex compliant chapters, you know what I mean? So we're not going to see Jagatai Khan, we're not going to see Vulcan, we're not going to see Korax anytime soon, because Guilliman kind of fills that role. But these other sub-factions of Space Marines need to have their centerpiece model. So Sanguinius obviously ain't coming back unless they pull some kind of rug pull stuff. But we need to get we need to get Leman Russ back. And so that's what's going to happen next. At least that's my take on it. And you guys are more than welcome to disagree with me, because I'm not a Games Workshop insider. I know nothing. Okay, let's actually, since this is supposed to be black, let's go ahead, or armor, let's go ahead and make this armor again. I completely forgot about that. I'll have to go back and fix that on the other guys too. And I mean, I guess technically, the Black Legion got Abaddon as their centerpiece model, and he is a good one. So until they decide to bring someone back like Lorgar, that's who it's going to have to be for the non-deity following Chaos Legion. And now that we've got the Emperor's Children and the Thousand Sons and the World Eaters of the Death Guard, I think they've made a decent parallel between both the Chaos and the Space Marine armies. So who knows? Maybe they'll stop doing Primarchs there for a little while until they can find an excuse to branch off for the rest of the armies. Because looking at it from a purely business perspective, obviously selling more Primarchs would get them more money, but they probably are going to have to come up with some reason why they would want to do that. Okay. Okay, same thing. I was not aware, and I feel foolish that this is part of the armor, and I thought this was part of their wings and their plumage. So I'm going to go ahead and go back over that with black. I'm actually going to put that over here. And I'm going to go back and paint some of these other things that I didn't realize were sleeves. The good news is dark colors cover light colors really well. So it's not going to take much effort at all for me to paint over these wings. Let's see if I can hit this. Honestly, after Russ comes back, I'm not sure who would come back next for the Primarchs, because the Black Templars, actually that might be how Dorn comes back. They might do a Black Templar version of Dorn where he's all rage, which would make a lot of sense because the Black Templars aren't Codex compliant, and they're one of the more unique chapters. But what are they? What are the unique ones? It's the Raven, or it's the Blood Angels, the Space Wolves, the Black Templars, and I feel like I'm missing one. I know the Death Watch kinda counts, but I'm not exactly sure. I'll have to look that up later. I know they've also got the Grey Knights as another one, who don't really count. Or is it really just, it's not really just the Space Wolves and the Dark Angels, is it? Sorta. Okay, that's fair. So that might be where they stop it. They might either bring back Dorn as a enraged Black Templar, or they might just stop with the Imperium Primarchs until they start making more unique codexes for guys like the White Scars and the Raven Guard. Who knows? I do actually wonder how they're going to find a way to make the Space Wolves a little bit more unique. Because my understanding is right now, as a chapter, they're not very good. Otherwise, you need Khan, Vulcan, Corvus, and old No Head. Yeah, that is true. I think I would love to see not necessarily Ferrus Manus, but like a warp entity that is basically Ferrus Manus lead like a new faction of Legion of the Damned. Like, that's a new release that they do. I know that would be kind of frustrating because we have enough Space Marine factions, we don't need more. But to see a Legion of the Damned faction be created and really expanded upon and be given like unique and weird rules because of who they are, and they're led by a warp entity that is not quite, but basically is Ferrus Manus. I think that would be pretty wild. Okay. And like I said, what I'm doing right now, pretty straightforward. I'm just kind of painting over the spots that I had prepped. And as you guys have already seen through numerous examples of this, it definitely shows up a whole lot brighter where there is an undercoat versus anywhere else. Call the Imperial Saints Army where they're basically ghosts. Yeah. They could do something like that. They could make it part of the Imperial Agents. I don't know. Since the Imperial Agents are like the saddest faction to me because there are a bunch of cool units, but it just feels like that army is basically, do you want to see someone score on assassination every turn because that's what you're about to see. We're going to split fire half your army into non-existence. And it just feels so kind of disjointed and broken. It's no surprise to me that the Death Watch came back because the Imperial Agents army faction is just so weird. Do it for Sister, Space Marine, Guardsmen, and more. Yeah, they could do something like that. I don't know. It would be super cool. But I think one of the biggest problems I have currently with 40k is that it does feels like there's too many damn factions, and we don't need this many. Because it just makes the game even harder to keep up with. It makes the game harder to balance. I don't know. Looking at it from a non-gameplay perspective, yes, release all the models. I want every model for every faction and every character. But in terms of them trying to balance it as a game, it just seems like an absolute disaster. It would be a very cool way to bring back Legends characters. Because that way you could have, like, I can do this. What's the guy's name? Castellan Creed. You can bring him back and he can be part of the army again. Characters like that. That would be really cool. But again, I think their biggest issue is simply that they can't really produce that many different models, and they're already buckling under the infrastructure problems they're having. So, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. To me, the answer is 3D printing. Because with 3D printing, if you have an artist who can make it, you could have any model you want. And honestly, they don't all need to have rules. If I'm not playing in a tournament, I'll make that shit up. So, yeah. Like, I actually have a bunch of cool 3D printed bits for Legion of the Damned. I could make a neat proxied Ferrus Manus and just give him modified Guilliman rules. But, you know, that would take time and effort and take me away from doing other things that I want to do. So unfortunately, that's not happening. There we go. All of the Iron Warriors now have pinstripes. And now I can finally move to the Stinky Lads. And actually, no, I can't. It's almost time for me to have to go. What I am going to do, actually, is I'm going to go ahead and get started on him. I'm going to base coat him brown. And that way, when I come back to him, I can just go ahead and start working on the greens. Okay, let's get rid of all this. Base coat the Stinky Boy. Well, the good news, Lotus K, is it seems like you've been able to make the streams pretty consistently. And I'm doing everything in my power to try and stream consistently. So I should be back. Actually, no, I take that back. Shit. Hopefully not going to still be working on these guys next Tuesday because I kind of want them to be done by this Friday. So that does mean, unfortunately, that I will not be able to paint the Stinky Lad on stream. I might, if I feel squirrely enough, do an extra stream on Friday. And that way, you might be able to... Actually, are you on my Discord by any chance? It doesn't look like you are. If you're interested, you don't have to join this, but if you're interested in kind of getting announcements when I'm streaming, that's the Discord. Again, you do not have to join. I'm not like pressuring you to do so, but if you want to get announcements for when I'm streaming or just kind of see progress pictures and other weird shit that I don't always post on Blue Sky, then you're more than welcome to join. But again, no pressure. I would hate to make you feel like you had to do anything. But yeah, there are definitely going to be pics of all this stuff. My plan at the end of the day is to get like a whole bunch of really nice pictures of these guys. And oh, thank you. I look forward to seeing you there. Most of what I do is shitpost. I'm sorry. I try and keep it mini painting and Warhams related. So hopefully it will not be too much of a bother. But what was I just thinking? Yeah, I'm gonna try and get really nice professional photos of these done so that they look really good, because this is way too cool a project, and I'm honestly excited to show it off on Community Day for Doig Swift, because they're another pair of streamers I mentioned I like a lot. They do a Community Day where they kind of just take time aside and highlight what their community has been working on so that they can celebrate them. And the last time I was able to catch it and be a part of it was in November. So it's been a while since I have. So I should have some pretty cool stuff to show off. And that's going to be the plan. Because these ducks are definitely going to be part of it. Okay. Yeah, unfortunately they stream at the, in the middle of the night because they're in Britain. So I'm having to kind of catch them when I can. Okay. Yeah, and as you can probably tell, I'm being a lot... Hello there. I'm being a lot less precious with the paint right now, because I am legitimately just trying to base coat as much, I say, as I go very gentle, as much of this model as I can in this brown, because it's going to inform the rest of the undercoat of this model. So I can afford to be very sloppy and fast and loose with the brown. It's going to inform, like, the pipes, it's going to inform the metallics, it's going to help with every part of this guy. So if I really wanted to, if I wanted to be real squirrely, I could have just taken a dry brush and slapped the shit out of him. But I didn't think about that until I mentioned it just now, so instead, he's going to get a very base coat brush of this kind of dark brown. I think this is actually supposed to be some form of umber, because I really enjoy the dark muted tone, and I think it works really well for a lot of different uses, especially with my paint style. And hopefully, I didn't even pay attention. I hope most of that was on camera. If not, I'm sorry. This is not part of the feathers, so we're gonna go ahead and take that, slide across. Okay. Okay. I missed that little bit. Yeah. There we go. That. Some of that. Okay, he has been sufficiently base coated in this horrifying brown. And again, part of the good news is that because he is Death Guard, it doesn't matter how clean it is, he's just going to be gross and disgusting, and he'll have to deal with it. Actually hit... Oh man, I just got a whole bunch of water in the paint as it crept into the ferrule. Okay. Let's go ahead and see if I can hit this a little bit better, a little bit more. Same with on this end. Okay. That'll do. That'll have to do. That'll go right there. Clean that up. And so all I do, if you're interested with the wet palette stuff, and this is why my wet palette looks so horrifying, all I do is I take a really wet brush and I mix it in with whatever paint there is to pull up as much of it as possible. And then I take some tissue and I just dab it on there to pull up the rest of it. And then I seal this and I save it for later. And once there's a breach, that is when I will finally actually replace the palette paper. I don't actually know if I showed this, guys, but I'm basically done with the lion. He's all done. The biggest thing about him right now is just that I don't have a base to put him on. So I'm going to wait until that happens before I finish this model for good. But for right now, the lion is done. He's been through everything and hopefully looks okay. But at some point, he's just sitting in a cup right now. And at some point, I will put him on a base worthy of the paint job. That being said, let's see who's streaming right now. Let's see who we can raid into. Oh, we've got some choices. It looks like Aria is streaming, so I think I'm gonna go ahead and say hi to her because she is a lovely person and deserves to have a little bit of a raid. So, raid Aria. How do I spell her name? I always get that wrong. Aria Silverfire. I think I got that right. Click into that. Mute that real quick. Mute. There we go. Yep, I think I got that right. So, and it looks like she's playing Genshin Impact. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay. Thank you guys for joining me. I do appreciate it. I hope to see you again soon. I hope you have a great rest of your week. And yeah, these ducks, excuse me, will hopefully be done before then. And if that happens, then I suppose you'll see them on the Discord. Thanks again, and I'll see you later. Bye-bye.